What's up everyone, Komi here, back with another Genshin Impact video, and this time this is the new Abyss guide, the version 2.1. The Abyss changed once again, and yeah, new blessing, new enemies, especially Flow 9 and 10 are the same as the previous rotation, but Flow 11 and 12 changed quite a lot. The debuffs we have into the floors are different. The enemies are way different as well. So yeah, we'll have a lot of things to cover. I'm not going to cover Flow 9 and 10 in this one. You can look back at my previous guide to see what you need to do for Flow 9 and 10 and what recommendations I have in terms of teams and positioning. And yeah, let's jump right into it. So yeah, as you can see, Flow 9 and 10 are the same. The enemies didn't change. The blessing, like the Leyline Disorder, is the same pretty much. You have like in Flow 9 you have the area with the electro damage, and on Flow 10 you have like the leader and the attendant. So yeah, this didn't change at all. You can check back my previous guide for more details about this. Let's take a look at the new Blessing of the Moon. So the new Blessing of the Moon, after a character uses an elemental burst, all party members' attack is increased by 6.5% for 15 seconds. Maximum 7 stacks. When the max stacks are reached, the active character's normal attacks will unleash a shockwave at the position of the opponent it hits, dealing AoE damage, and the shockwave can be unleashed in this manner once every 2 seconds. So first, as usual, MiHoYo doesn't give us any information, any details about the damage of the shockwave. Like literally every time they say we do a shockwave, we deal AoE damage, but what are the ratios? What are the damage? Like, is it like, I don't know, 100% of attack or 50% of HP or defense, whatever? I mean, I want to know. But other than that, like this buff is extremely strong. Basically, you want to spam your elemental bursts as often as possible so you can get this attack percent increase and the shockwave release. So yeah, make sure you spam your bursts as often as possible, as fast as possible, so you get all these buffs, because 6.5% attack times 7 is insane. So now let's get into Flow 11. So first, let's check the Leyline Disorder, because this one is going to be something we've never seen before, and a lot of people are complaining about it. Later in the video, I'm going to show you how you can play around this. I don't think it's that big of a problem, but it can be surprising, and you have to be careful about it. So it's a little bit harder, but if you have the right characters, it should be pretty easy. And I will show you free-to-play characters that you can use, and characters that almost everyone has, and that should be enough to help fight this new Leyline Disorder. So what's the Leyline Disorder? The Leyline Disorder is the new debuff called Corrosion. Characters being affected by corrosion will lose a fraction of their HP every second, and the active characters can be brought down by corrosion, so they can die, but the non-active characters can't lose less than can't go under 15% HP if they're not on the field. And you get corroded every time you kill an enemy, and this effect can be stacked. So you have to be careful with that. The corrosion lasts for 10 seconds. As I said, it can be stacked, and the duration of each stack is counted independently. So when you get another stack, it doesn't reset the cooldown of the previous stacks. Chamber 1 is not too hard. You're gonna fight Blazing Axe Metatrol and some random Hilichurl on the side. If you have something to group the enemies, it's gonna make it easier, but you don't really need that. They're not really tanky. Just bring one of your main DPS and it should be possible. Second half, you have Pyro Abyss Mage. Maybe you need a Hydro character. As I was saying, for this floor, to fight the corrosion, what you need is basically one healer in each team. For the second half, I would say build your Barbara. You just need level 50 Barbara with a level 20 Flower. You can give her like HP Sand if you want a little bit more tankiness and a little bit more healing, but I tried with only a level 50 Barbara with only level 20 Flower, and it worked really well. And she's going to be able to bring down the Pyro Abyss Mage shield. So yeah, I would say just bring Barbara, build her a little bit. It doesn't require too much resources, and you're good to go. For Chamber 2, it's kind of the same deal. It's not really too hard. You have the Pyro Slinger that's going to spawn with some treasure hoarders on the side. If you can gather them with Sucrose, Venti, or Kazuha, it's nice. If you don't have it, It doesn't matter too much. They're pretty squishy, and you should be able to kill them pretty fast. Focus the Pyro Slinger first, I would say, because if you don't have a Hydro character in the first half, you might struggle breaking his shield. So make sure you focus the Pyro Slinger first. For the second half, same thing. Focus the Kairagi first. He's really tanky. Not too tanky compared to the previous ones from like the previous rotations of Flow 12, but they're still pretty tanky, so focus them first. The other treasure hoarders are going to join the fight, and you'll be able to damage them as well while you kill the Kairagi. For the last chamber, you're going to fight 2 waves on the first half. Each wave is going to have a Pyro Agent, Cryo Mage, and Electro Mage, so they're going to be close together. If you can gather them as well, like the previous chamber with Kazuha, Venti, or Sucrose, it's nice. Try to bring some AoE damage. You can change the teams from chamber 1 to chamber 2, but yeah, try to bring some AoE damage so you can damage them together. Maybe 1 Pyro support to break the Sissin Mage Cryo Shield if you don't have a Pyro DPS. And also, I wouldn't recommend bringing a Pyro DPS because there's the Pyro Agent, and he has a lot of Pyro resistance. And for the second half, I would say just focus the Geovishap first. He's gonna infuse with Pyro after some time, but you should be able to kill him pretty fast. He's not that tanky. If you focus the Geovishap, the Pyro Slimes are gonna join you as well, so you're gonna be able to damage them together with the Geovishap. And for this half, I would say maybe you need to bring Hydro DPS or Cryo DPS so you can melt or vaporize constantly. Now let's talk about the team recommendations for Flow 11. Overall, I don't have too many tips for this. You can bring the characters that you like, but you just need at least 1 good healer in each team. So I would say the second half, you should try to bring your Barbara. Level 50 Barbara is more than enough. Just slam a lot of HP on her, a flower level 20, HP sand, and if you have some HP substat, that's great as well. And for the first half, you can try to bring Jean or Chi-Chi if you have one of them, or you can do Bennett or Diona. I think Bennett or Diona, if you only have one of them, it's not the best. If you have both of them, I would try to bring both of them in the team so you have constant healing on the field. Otherwise, if you only have one of them, you can try with one of them, and you just have to be careful and make sure you save your bursts for the right moment so you can heal your whole team with just 1 Bennett burst or 1 Diona burst. Bennett is better than Diona in my opinion though. For the DPS, just second half you'll have a lot of Pyro characters on the last chamber, so maybe you want a Cryo DPS or a Hydro DPS if you can have that. And for the first half, it doesn't matter too much, just make sure you bring Sucrose, Venti, or Kazuha if you have them. So for the 11-3 chamber, it's going to be easier to fight the Agent and the Sissin Mages. Now let's get into Flow 12. So Flow 12 this time is maybe a little bit harder, especially 12-3. But I think overall 12-1 and 12-2 are easier than the previous rotation. Chamber 3 though, you have a lot of mechanic enemies, and I think the 12-3 second half is a bit harder than before. So this is the real challenge in my opinion. You need a lot of reactions. But yeah, let's look at Chamber 1 first. So you have a lot of Nobushis, treasure hoarders. This first half is pretty easy, I would say. Try to bring Sucrose so you can gather them together. They're not really tanky. It should be pretty easy. The second half though is actually a bit harder because you start with the Eye of the Storm and 3 Nemo Spectres, and the Spectres are really annoying. It's really hard to gather them together. So yeah, focus the Eye of the Storm first, I would say. Maybe if you have a bow user, it could be helpful to bring it down if he starts doing his charging attack. But otherwise, yeah, focus the Eye of the Storm, try to AoE damage the Spectres, and then after you kill them together, the Stonehide is going to spawn with 3 Geospectres as well. And basically the same. Focus the Stonehide Lava Chill first because he's really tanky, and try to damage the Spectres on the side. Overall, I would say it's not too hard. You still have a lot of time. First half is pretty fast. You should have at least 1 minute 30 or 2 minutes for the second half. If you see that you have less than that, I would say maybe try again the first half. But yeah, it shouldn't be too hard. For Chamber 2, this is a bit harder as well because you have the Magu Kenki in the first half. If you need tips on the Magu Kenki positioning, you can check out my previous guide as well. Basically, when you start the fight, you want to be between the Magu Kenki and the wall on the, behind his back. You want also to charge your burst if they're not charged yet. You want to start using your skills on him so you get energy and you try to get your burst back. And then, yeah, if you have some buffers, try to use the burst before he completely wakes up. So you get buffed right when he starts taking damage. And then use as much DPS as you can. Magu Kenki is literally just a DPS check. So maybe try to work around with reactions or just bring 2 DPSs. That's what I do usually against Magu Kenki. I bring Yaka and Eula together. So I can use a Yaka burst while DPSing with Eula, and it works pretty well. For the second half, you have a Mirror Maiden and a Cryo Assassin Mage. Only 2 enemies this time, no, not more than that. So overall, it's not too hard, but they're spawning quite far from each other. So try to face the Mirror Maiden. So you look the way to the Cryo Assassin Mage, and the Maiden is gonna teleport back behind, and she's gonna go closer to the Assassin Mage, so you can maybe DPS them together. But yeah, for this one, if you have a Pyro DPS, it can be helpful for the Cryo Assassin Mage. But yeah, the Mirror Maiden is really tanky. Just try to DPS them together so you can win some time. And yeah, that's pretty much it. Finally, floor 12 Chamber 3. So this one is a real DPS check as well. It's a bit harder than the previous 12-3 in my opinion. The first half is going to be 2 Rune Guards only, so it's not the hardest chamber and the hardest half either. But you want to bring some reactions. Basically, for the whole 12-3 chamber, you want to bring a lot of reactions damage. Like, I don't know, you want to try to melt or vaporize or super conduct, even though like they have a lot of physical resistance. But if your main DPS is Eula, for example, try to bring some electro to super conduct there. And yeah, first half 2 Rune Guards, try to freeze. You can perma-freeze them. This is a really good comp, like Yaka Xingqiu, Rosaria with Xingqiu, Kaya, Chongyun. A freeze comp works really well for the first half, so the Rune Guard don't move. And for the second half, you want to try to have at least 2 minutes for the second half, even a little bit more if you can. First half, the Rune Guards are not too tanky, so if you can kill them in like 45 seconds, it should be nice. For the second half, if you have 2 minutes, 2:15, it should be good enough. First, you want to DPS the mechanical array as fast as possible before the second phase, and then when the little enemies, little machines spawn, you want to see which one spawn. If there's like some sort of a snake machine, you might want to restart the fight, because this one takes like 10 seconds to wake up and to be damageable. So maybe you want to restart the fight if you see that this one is going to be the one that you need to kill. Otherwise, yeah, it's literally just a DPS check. Try to bring some reactions, melt, vaporize. It should work pretty well because they have a lot of physical resistance. And yeah, that's pretty much it for floor 12. I think this time it's a bit harder for free to play because it's really a DPS check and they have a lot of physical resistance. But if you've been playing the game for like a few months, you should have at least one elemental DPS, like, I don't know, a Yaka, Yoimiya. Yoimiya is really good for this. If you have, I don't know, Raiden Shogun with Kazuha, or if you have Yanfei with Xingqiu, Diluc with Xingqiu, those are really good characters for the Perpetual Mechanical Array. And yeah, you basically want to proc as much reaction as possible. Alright, for the floor 12 teams, you have a lot of options. For the first half, remember that on the second chamber, you'll have Magu Kenki, and on the third chamber, you'll have 2 Rune Guards in the first half and the Mechanical Array on the second half. This one is probably going to be the hardest part. So on floor 12, I would say it's really hard to do everything with only one team. You'll probably have to change teams for each chamber. For example, chamber 1, you'll have a lot of enemies all over the place, so you might want to bring someone to gather them, like Venti, Sucrose, or Kazuha. And for the second half, you'll have the Eye of the Storm, the Stone High Lava Churl, so you'll want to have a lot of elemental damage and range damage as well for the Eye of the Storm and the Geo and Animo Spectres. So for the first chamber, I'll do chamber per chamber. For the first chamber, I would say bring Sucrose or Kazuha in the first team. On the second team, if you have Ganyu, Raiden, or if you don't have 5-star, you can bring the national team with Bennett, Xiangling, Chongyun, and Sucrose, or with, if you don't have Chongyun or if you don't have Sucrose, you can bring Rosaria, you can bring Diona. Just make sure you have a lot of elemental damage for the second half, and for the first half that you can gather the enemies. For chamber 2 now, you'll need a lot of single target DPS for Magukenki. So if you have Raiden or Ganyu, or if you have Eula and Ayaka, if you have both of them, it's really good because Ayaka can just use her burst and then you DPS with Eula, so you have a lot of off-field damage. If you have Ayaka, Rosaria, or even Ganyu, Rosaria, basically you want a lot of off-field damage on your supports, and you can DPS with your main DPS while the off-field damage is still active. For the second half, it is a Myro Maiden and a Cryo Mage. This one shouldn't be too hard. You just have to make sure you clear Magukenki in at least 130. If it's 145, it should be okay, but yeah, 130 would be the best timer for the first half. And for the second half, since it's a Cryo Mage and Myro Maiden, you want some Pyro DPS. So if you have Yoimiya, Klee, if you have Hu Tao, Diluc, that should be pretty good. If you have Venti or Sucrose as well, so you can bring them together. And as I said earlier, you want to face the Myro Maiden towards the Cryo Mage. So when the Myro Maiden teleports, she's going to go backwards to the Cryo Mage. Finally, for the chamber 3, so the first half is going to have 2 rune guards and the second half is going to be the perpetual mechanical array. For this chamber, you want, in the first half, if you have elemental, basically for the two halves, you want elemental damage. Pyro DPS with cryo or hydro for vape or melt is pretty good. For the first team, I cleared on my second account, I cleared with Yanfei. Where's my Yanfei? I don't have a Yanfei build on this account, but Yanfei is pretty good with Qingqiu, Bennett, and Sucrose, for example. This team is full 4-star team and it's pretty good. You can clear this this half in like 30-45 seconds, and that's what you should aim for because the second half is going to take a lot of time. And for the second half, just try to bring your best DPS. Ayaka with Rosaria and Raiden is a pretty good team. That's a lot of 5-stars though, so if you don't have that many 5-stars, just try to bring your best elemental DPS like Klee or Hu Tao, or if you have Ganyu or if you have Ayaka, just one of them is good enough. And then bring your best supports. Rosaria is good off-field cryo applications. Xiangling is extremely good as well for melt. So I would say try to bring a lot of elemental damage, like Rosaria, Xiangling is nice with Ayaka, and if you want a healer, you can bring the Yona or Barbara. This team should be pretty good and should work pretty well. Overall, 12-3 is really hard, even for me sometimes. If I don't bring even for me as well, if I don't bring the right character, my base characters, I can struggle. So I think this one, you'll need really good artifacts in your characters, and that's pretty much it. There's a bug going on for this Abyss, but I don't want to recommend using this bug because it removes the challenge of the Abyss. Even though this one is extremely hard for free-to-plays, I think it brings more... you'll be more proud if you don't use the bug. To sum things up, basically for floor 11, you want one healer in each team, preferably a constant healer like Chi-Chi, Jin, or Barbara. And for floor 12, you will probably have to change team for each chamber. And yeah, follow my team recommendations. Each chamber will have a different team, so don't feel bad if you have to retry for each chamber. Make sure you charge your bursts at the end of the chamber you cleared before, so you can be ready for the next chamber. And that's pretty much it. You have to try to do your best, bring your best DPS. And if you feel like you're struggling, remember that you still have 1.5 weeks, so you can still farm artifacts, try to upgrade your builds. And it's not a big deal if you can't 36-star yet. This Abyss is extremely hard, even for me. So I would say don't feel bad, try your best, and that's pretty much it. Thank you very much for watching this video. Hope you guys enjoyed it. Hope you found it helpful. Let me know if you have any more questions. You can join my Discord. The link is going to be in the description down below. And I'll see you in the next video, guys. Thank you for watching. Bye-bye.